Happy New Year! What?
Never mind.
Oh. Happy New Year! I know I'm not saying, you know, the introduction that I usually do, but Happy New Year! I highly recommend this book. And I will try and give you... What?
Is that the one you found today?
Yeah. I mean, this book on Amazon new is, you know, quite expensive. The price on the cover...
What is the book about?
$1.95. This is, he was a Soviet dissident.
We'll talk to them.
Oh, I'm sorry. Alexander Solzhenitsyn was a Soviet dissident. And warning to the West, people. Warning to the West. He also wrote a book about warning to the West and the stuff that's going on right now. People being arrested, indefinite detention without charge, without trial. It went on in Germany. It went on in my homeland of Spain. It went on in the Soviet Union, Eastern Europe, North Korea, China. It doesn't matter if the person with their jackboot on your throat is wearing a brown shirt or a red shirt. In the end, it's all the same. I saw no difference between what went on in Spain, what went on in Germany, what went on in Italy, what went on in Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union, China and North Korea. North Korea may be a lot worse. Then there's Cambodia, and the list will go on and on and on and on and on. And I warn you people, I'm from what was a fascist country. It's scary what's going on right now. For the new year, let's change things, make things better. I've only started reading this, but I know about Solzhenitsyn. And I have one of his other books, A Day in the Life of... I can't remember now. It's a thin book. It's in the kitchen, actually, where it shouldn't be. It should be over here. Kitchen is for cookbooks.
Yeah, right.
But we may have to start putting gardening books in there because space. We need a larger apartment.
We're trying to figure out how to hang the cat up from the ceiling right now. That's how bad we need space.
Yeah, we'd like to get a cat because, you know, Lucky needs a buddy and he loves cats. Oh boy, does he! Oh, and guess what he likes?
The snow.
The snow and the cold. Well, it's the snow, I think, that he likes. Like my wife said, Carolyn, the beautiful woman over there. And I'm going to tell you something. Excuse me.
Rivet.
I never thought I would find a woman like her in my entire life. Never thought it would happen. I would actually say she found me. But we found each other. I don't spend enough time with her. I don't sit with her. I don't... Yeah, I feel bad. I wish I...
Hey, at least we're in the same room. We're just a few feet away from each other. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, I want her to have a better life than she has.
I want us to have a better life than we have. I want it to be nice, you know, not just bare bones existence like we kind of are right now.
Yeah.
Kind of a pain in the ass, you know?
Yeah. We went to the Helping Hands this morning.
And they were closed.
Yet the flyer, which is actually dated for last year, or actually 2 years ago now.
Well, whatever Monday the 30th, December 30th would be.
Yeah. But they said they would be open, and they meant today, or yesterday now. If you're Central Time, Western Time, Pacific Time, it hasn't happened yet. But for us, it has happened. I think actually Maine happened before it did for us.
I don't know.
Well, because remember they had the dropping of the ball?
Well, they were doing it at like 11:15, they said.
Oh.
I think they're on the same thing. They were just doing it. They were dropping a maple leaf in honor of their Canadians or something like that. So what
you know I'm part Canadian, eh?
Yeah?
Actually, I am, eh? You know how my dad came to the United States? He wanted to get a job in Seattle. Well, not in Seattle. He wanted to get a job on a ship. He had worked on ships under various flags in Canada, where he was from. And he said he liked the Americans. The Americans were always really nice to him. They were always willing to teach him. They were always willing to give him the opportunity to learn, you know, to actually hands-on doing stuff, rather than, no, you can't do that yet, or whatever. You know, it's like he got in there and he could do stuff, and he liked that. And when he died, according to my cousin, he thought of himself as an American, not a Canadian. But anyway, now my father had served in World War II in Canadian Merchant Navy, which in the United States we would say Merchant Marine, but he was Canadian, eh? And anyway,
we need a house.
Yeah, house. And he had played football, what I call football, what you probably call soccer, and it's not called that, it's called football. F-U-T-B-O-L. Anyway, he played for the Victoria Wharf Rats, which is no longer around. That club is no longer around. Anyway, so, and back then they wore boots, not shoes. And I had pictures, of course I lost them in the fire, but I had a couple of pictures of him. One, he was, maybe both of them. No, I think one was when he was little, just a itty bitty, you know, he was a toddler, and he was the mascot for the club. And the other one, he was older, and when he was playing for the club. And there were black and white photos, and anyway, so he wanted to, you know, sign up at the Merchant Marine Hall in Seattle, and so he's going across the frontier border. And, you know, the border guards are there, you know, the American border guards are there. They say, boy, what you think you're doing? He says, sir, I have a match in Seattle. You know, he had his football boots over his shoulder, and, you know, and they're like, I bet you do. No, yes, sir, I really do, sir. I have a match in Seattle. And, okay, go ahead. They didn't really believe him. And, but they went ahead and let him cross, and when he got out of sight of the border guards, he threw his football boots away, went to the Merchant Marine Hall and signed up, put his name in, and you know, he got a job. You know, it wasn't long after that the U.S. military found out, because he was working ostensibly as an American, not as a Canadian. He was an illegal alien, and
he was a UFO. Oh my God! Ah!
And anyway, so it was during the Korean War, and there was a draft on at the time, and they said, well, boy, you need to either and here's a picture of my dad from that time period. Carolyn did a really good job with that. That's when he was 6th Infantry Division, Fox Company. That's actually, well, I don't know if that's graduation or what, but that's actually there at 6ID, which is no longer around. Alaska Command now has in charge of what 6ID used to be in charge of.
Ooh, we can give us a KFC game day bucket.
Oh, that would be good.
8
well,
chicken, 8 hot wings, and 12 bites for $19.99.
I'll eat the hot wings. Anyway, so...
See, you do eat chicken. Like me.
See, so anyway, so he was told you either register for the draft or you go back home. You know what he did? He joined the Army. He did. I mean, I don't know if he technically registered for the draft or not, but he wound up joining the U.S. Army. He served in the Army for a short time. I don't know exactly how long. And by the end, he had a sleeve full of stripes, and he was a ship's engineer. He had his ticket as a ship's engineer, which is a stoker, or, you know, the guys in charge of the boilers. You know, anyway, so because he only had his ticket for steam, he didn't have it for diesel yet. And diesel was still kind of new, and anyway, the military found out that he was a ship's engineer. So they said, well, you know what, you were supposed to tell us that. We asked you this kind of stuff when you joined, and you were supposed to tell us that. And he said, I'm sorry, sir, you know, I apologize, but, you know, I'm an immigrant, and I feel that immigrants, I feel that the best jobs should go to native-born Americans, not to immigrants. And they said, you know what, we don't care what you think, feel, or believe. You tell us. We ask you a question, you give us the answer. And so he wound up being transferred into the Navy with a commission. And I don't know what his rank was, because he transferred back into the Army. A few years later, when my parents met, he was in the Navy. He was in Norfolk, which is interesting because my mother was from Aurora, North Carolina, which is not that far from Norfolk. And my mom's family arrived in Virginia in 1632. And they lived in Great Bridge, Virginia, which is right there. It's like a suburb of Norfolk. Well, today it is. I don't think Norfolk exactly consisted of much more than maybe a pier back then, if even that. Probably got off the ship into a boat and rowed to shore. Anyway, so he was in the Navy. He was in Norfolk. He was on the USS Shasta 86, and my mother was in nursing school at a Catholic nursing school, and they were expected to, the nurses were expected to become nuns. Well, the Mother Superior found out my mom was engaged and kind of kicked her out. So anyway, my father wound up being transferred to Upper Darby in Pennsylvania, outside of Philly, and my mother wound up going to nursing school at Lankenau. Now, if you've seen the movie MASH, the movie, not the TV show, big difference. Believe me, it's a big difference. In the movie, there's a scene where one of the surgeons says, "Give me a Diva retractor." Now, Dr. Deaver, who developed the Diva retractor, worked at Lankenau Hospital, where the Lankenau Nursing School was. My mother never had direct contact with him, but, you know, I always thought that was kind of cool. And if you look at the yearbooks, we have her yearbooks in the basement, and it says Dr. Deaver, you know, he's on staff there. But anyway, so it was, I don't know when my father transferred back into the Army, but he transferred back in as a captain. He made it to major. You know, he had served in World War II. He had served in Korea, and he was in the Navy during, well, he was in the Army and the Navy during the Korean War. The only time he was actually in Korea during the Korean War was when he was in the Navy. But my understanding is that 6ID was initially supposed to deploy as combat troops to Korea, but then their duty was changed to training. I don't know if that's accurate or not. But anyway, so my father was Lieutenant J.G. James Conner in the Navy, and he was Major James Conner in the Army. He went to Vietnam as a major. He was it company commander, I think. 329th Transportation Corps Heavy Boats. He always worked kind of like in that area, you know, because in my homeland, he worked at a port, and he had after Vietnam he resigned his commission, but he stayed in the Army. So he was in active reserves, because he was always a reservist, but he was active reserves. Anyway, so on Okinawa, he had a civilian job, and that was at a port. I don't know what he did. I don't know. I was a little kid. In Spain, I was a little kid. I don't know. But anyway,
You
so...
were a brat.
Yeah, I was a brat. In more ways than one. I was an Army brat.
You were soiling your diapers.
Yeah. So
you're doing your part for the war.
Yeah. So anyway, so I don't know. I just got into all that kind of stuff. But, you know, my dad was a great man. Wish I could say that about my mom. But,
I think your mom had some problems.
yeah. Both of our mothers, I think, had issues.
I think my mother got dropped on her head.
So I think maybe both of our dads were very similar to each other. You know, like she says she only heard...
My dad yelled once his whole life.
Yeah, and that was like, for me, it was like he got pissed off at me once. You know, or... Anyway, so... Oh yeah, that's, I guess, when he would have been a private or a corporal. I don't know. Fort Ord, California. I don't know if you can really see that, though. I used to have the yearbook, but I lost that in the fire as well. Anyway, so I recommend this book. Very good book. Not hard, not difficult to read. Of course, you may have to look at a few things up concerning the different types of police and military units of the Soviet Union, but and Germany as well, because you know, it starts kind of there and during the World War II. But anyway, I don't know what else to say, but this is a lovely, beautiful, wonderful woman. This is our second New Year's together, and I am so thankful to have her in my life, and I got into a bunch of other stuff that... Anyway, so, Happy New Year!